Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. I am Joey Calvo. Our podcast is part of the World Podcast Network, now with over 1,100 podcasts. Visit the World Podcast Network at https://worldpodcast.network to listen to podcasts in over 12 genres. Come vote our podcast episodes up and help us rise to the leaderboard. If you have a podcast of your own, you can join for free. Before we get to our guest today, I need to take a moment and thank YouTube. The last podcast we did last Thursday with SD herself is continuing to get the most views ever. Normally, the most views I've ever had on YouTube was 60. This last podcast, and I'm hoping this podcast can do it too, and many more, reached 1,602 views as of now. So thank you very much to everybody on YouTube for watching that video podcast. Please, and we gained a lot of subscribers off of that too. So thank you for that as well. Today I have Mark Steven Porro. He wrote a book called A Cup of Tea in a Commode, and we're going to chat about his story and how he came to lean to this book. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the book itself. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and Mark will be happy to answer them for you. All right, Mark, thank you, first of all, for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate it. My pleasure.
All right. So, who is Mark Steven Porro?
Always a good question. So, I grew up in Ridgewood, New Jersey, one of 6 children. My parents were very cool. My dad was a chemist, and my mother was a proofreader for the Bergen Record, which at the time was the largest newspaper in New Jersey. After high school,
I'm going to stop you there. I actually grew up in New Brunswick.
Oh, cool.
And,
okay, yeah.
And I always thought the Star Ledger was the biggest paper in the state, but
It may have been. It may have been
Yeah.
at the time, because I don't even know if the Bergen Record. I hope it still exists, because they were supposed to run a story about me and my book for Mother's Day.
Okay.
I knew I saw it online, but yeah,
Okay.
and I have no idea where it ranks now.
Yeah, please continue on. I'm sorry, I had to say that because I'm a Jersey guy too, so that's why.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I went off to the Ohio State University to originally to study medicine, but when I got there, I wanted to be an eye doctor. A friend of mine, I didn't know it at the time, but my best friend, his father was an ophthalmologist. So I grew up from 8th grade on to college wanting to be an ophthalmologist. And people say, "How did you choose that so young?" And I said, well, my friend had a limo instead of a car. He had heated sidewalks and driveways, so no shoveling snow in the winter. And he had an elevator in his house. And I said, "What does your dad do?" And he says, "He's an eye doctor." I said, "Okay, now I know what I want to do." So, but when I got to college, I had a very strong creative side. And so I switched majors. So I went into industrial design, and that married a couple of my loves, which was math and science and art. So it was a perfect combination. And I really lucked out because Ohio State at the time had one of the best design schools in the country. So I did that. I graduated and I worked in design for a number of years. And then I had the acting bug got a hold of me, and I moved out to Los Angeles and lived there for 28 years doing the Hollywood business and a few other things too. So I not only was an actor, I did design, but I also started a bunch of, I started 5 nonprofit companies, but none of them were intended to be nonprofit. So we learn a lot from our failures. And then, so I stayed out there working, and I had a snack business at the time. as well as acting. And then in 2011 is when the subject of the book all started.
Okay.
So you want to get into that yet, or do you want to?
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay. So in 2011, I get a call from my brother in New Jersey. My mother was living in the house that we grew up in Ridgewood. And we had some people living upstairs because at this point she was 89 and she was not able to drive and shop and do laundry and things like that. So we had a family that moved in upstairs and they were overseeing household duties and that kind of stuff. But my mom was just not happy. So I think she tried to check out. I called it a self-induced coma. She just shut down and was non-responsive. And my brother called the doctor. The doctor cut off all meds and food, and hospice was called.
Mm-hmm.
And when hospice is called, usually the end is not a good one. So we all kind of freaked out and we all flew in. Mm-hmm. And so my mom was kind of on her deathbed, and we had a Catholic priest come in and deliver the last rites. And so that was it. And that's how the story began.
Okay. All right. So this led to so the book, A Cup of Tea from the Commode, is practically based on this with your mom.
Yeah. So what I did is I was, at the time I was 55 and I was living the carefree bachelor life in Los Angeles, having a great time. I had no children, never been married, and I had no steady girlfriend at the time. And so I flew home and my life kind of changed because I didn't do it right away, but I stayed with her for a number of months. She did snap out of it. My younger sister and I hung out with hospice as much as we could because we wanted to take care of our mother as much as possible because we didn't know how much time we were going to have. So we learned all the tips and tricks that hospice knew how to take care of a helpless patient who's lying in bed, taking care of any kind of medical needs and that kind of stuff. So we were really good students and we took over as much as we could. And then later in the year, I decided Mom deserved better. She was not happy. She was living in her own home and she was almost kind of like a prisoner in her own home. So I asked her if she wanted me to come home and take care of her. And so she said yes. And so I moved back into my family home and took care of Mom full time for 3.5 years is the period in the book that I cover. Okay. And so I became a first-time parent to at this point, she turned 90. So to a 90-year-old guilt-tripping, stubborn as all get out lady who couldn't remember my name.
My mother, speaking of moms, I just saw mine and she's going to be 93 in July. And my sister, who runs her finances and estate wise, it made her stop driving. So my brother had to drop her off. But we had a very good time for Mother's Day. And went to this little place in Franklin Park because that's where she wanted to go. Usually she would want to go to IHOP, but she wanted to go to this place because she was going there with some seniors this past Friday. So I was like, okay, that's what you want to do. We'll do that. So first of all, I do want to congratulate your book on being the 2024 Eric Hoffer Award finalist, also the 2024 Book Excellence Award winner, as well as the 2024 International Firebird Book Award winner. So congratulations on all that.
Thank you. It won another one too, but I'm not allowed to announce it yet until they let me know, but said keep it quiet until we do the press releases. So
okay, no problem. Yeah. I'm just going off what you sent me. So right. Yeah. So all right. So so mainly you're covering 3.5 years of being a caregiver to your mom.
Right.
Okay. Now, did when you were while you were doing that, and you said that you became a first-time parent. Um, what kind of difficulties did you feel as you were doing it?
Well, the first thing I did is I asked permission. So I wanted to, even though she was kind of childlike in some ways, is still your mother, and she deserves respect and dignity and to be treated, kind of as your mother as best you can.
Right.
So once she agreed, well, I said, do you want me to move back here and take care of you full time? And she said, yes. And I said, that means I will make sure you are healthy and happy and safe. And is this what you want? And she said, yes. And I said, well, that means I'm in charge. And that means you must now obey me. And her mood changed in an instant.
Wow.
And then she puckered up for a kiss. And I wasn't sure if that was a sign of surrender or one wishing me luck. And so that's how our adventures began, because she could be a bit of a piece of work. She's also a Jersey girl, originally a Long Island girl, but a Jersey girl. So she was very funny. Both of my parents had really good senses of humor.
Mm-hmm.
So humor played a big role.
Yeah.
And but there were a number of things. I had a very good relationship with both of my folks. I was the fifth kid, the third son. I had two older brothers, two older sisters, and I was a very curious kid. So I got them to open up, because they were both Depression kids. So, and with World War II and all that business, they rarely talked about feelings or even pain. And so I got them each of them to open up about a lot of stuff. And part of that was, I guess, from my acting. I just wanted to know, and I also was very curious about family history. So I noticed my mom was not, she did suffer some bouts of depression throughout her life, but now it seemed to be a bit serious. So I wanted to, the first thing to do was to return some dignity to her. So the wardrobe she was wearing was old ladies' clothing, and I said, this is not going to do. So we're buying you a new wardrobe. Hopefully that'll help cheer her up. And it did. She loved it, and she looked good in it, and it was a lot of fun. And then I created a thing called Day of Beauty. And my mom, had 6 kids and worked full time, but she treated herself to a weekly visit to the beauty salon, where she got a shampoo and set and had her nails done. She had gorgeous nails. She was a nail model back in her late teens, early 20s. So I created a thing called the Day of Beauty, which I gave her special treatment. I mean, every day she got a bath morning and night, a sponge bath. But on the weekends, we did it on Saturday. It was Day of Beauty Day, where I soaked her feet in Epsom salts, and she got a shampoo and blow dried her hair and got to wear her new wardrobe. And then I did her nails, and then finished it off with either putting her hair in a ponytail or a braid, and then bright red lipstick to match her bright red nails. And I didn't think that much of it, other than I thought it would be a nice gesture. But as I wheeled her in, because she could no longer walk, so it was from the kitchen, from the bedroom to the kitchen was on a wheelchair. So I put her on the wheelchair, and as we're going into the kitchen, we have a large round mirror in the dining room. And I parked her in front of that mirror and whispered in her ear, "Who is that pretty girl?" And the look on her face was just gorgeous. It just melted me, because she was like Gaga in the mirror. And I thought, boy, when's the last time she looked in the mirror? When's the last time she looked in the mirror and liked what she saw? And when's the last time that she felt pretty?
Yeah.
So that was just a powerful thing for me, and also for her. And so it was something that I kept doing all the time. And it was great, because the happy look on her face was contagious. Everybody around her picked up on it. And it's lovely, because I'm finding out, as I'm spreading the word about the book and doing these interviews, that a lot of nursing homes and assisted living places are now having people from beauty salons come in and treat their guest as something special, which is great because wanting to feel pretty doesn't end at 90 years old. And for men also, a nice clean shave and things like that really helps and boosts their spirit. So that was a cool thing.
Yeah, I remember because when I was married in 2001, my ex-mother-in-law worked with the mentally disabled and got me a job working with them. And I had two gentlemen that I took care of at night during the week. And there was somebody that stayed in on the weekend. And then I came in on a Sunday and did the first half of the day with them and took them out and all that. And there's one gentleman always on my mind. This guy is always on my mind. He is as bad as me, but he doesn't drink iced coffee. But he loves Dunkin'. Either every night or every other night, we had to go to Dunkin' for coffee.
Yeah.
I could not get around it. And he also loved going to Hooters. So I did what I could during the time, and even sometimes paying for it myself and taking him to Hooters and, letting him have the time of his life. And he was in a wheelchair as well. I mean, he didn't have much family. So, I mean, I was kind of like his family. And the last time I saw him was a couple of years ago, and he gave me a lecture like, why have you been around and all this stuff, or come on back and stuff like that. I'm like, there's kind of reasons I can't, but but now the people that I had worked with him retired. So I don't go up and see him as much anymore like I used to. But, I had that feel. But, we had to be medically certified and all that to be able to give them medications and all that. Mm-hmm. So in reference to the medical part of her life, in reference to, did you have nurses there giving them the meds, or were you giving her the meds?
Well, to be honest, once she had this episode where she shut down, the doctor cut off all meds. Okay. Right, and about over 3 weeks later, when she finally snapped out of it, that's the first time she started eating. She was med free pretty much the whole time.
Okay.
We had a pacemaker. And so we used to do monthly pacemaker checkups, but they did it over the phone, which was great. You had a monitor at the house, and I would call in, and then you put the phone on her pacemaker, and they could check it. So it was great because getting her to and from doctor's appointments was not an easy task, and sometimes would be probably did more damage than good.
Right.
So. But and then because of her heart, we had to add some digoxin at some point. So we administered that. So that's another thing. When you're taking care of your mom, especially, I know I had power of attorney, and her life is in your hands. So you gotta know what you're doing, and so you study up and you become as knowledgeable as you can. And if there was any particular issues, there was an issue one time where. I not only wanted to return dignity to her, but I started renovating her house because this is the house we all grew up in.
Yeah.
And our family had been in it at that point for over 60 years. And so, but it needed some repair, some work. So I renovated the thing from top to bottom because mom slept a lot during the day. So I had some time to do that.
Yeah.
And I gave her, once I finished the upstairs bathroom, I put a very large bathtub in there. And asked her if she wanted to christen it with a bubble bath. And she said, sure. So I put my mom in the bubble bath, and it was great. I shot a picture of her. She's beaming, and I got the bubbles. So it looks, it's very modest. Yeah. And then she passed out. And I'm like, oh, great. I try to do a good thing, and I kill my mom. But at least she smelled good. So I pulled her out of the tub, and she was out. And I carried her downstairs, put her to bed, and then called up a nurse. And the nurse said, because she was probably in the hot water a little too long. Her blood pressure dropped, so she fainted.
Oh, okay.
But
Well,
I did something really, I was dreading that phone call to my siblings. Oh, by the way,
I should kill Mom.
good news, Mom is very clean. Bad news, she's no longer here. So that could have been a disaster. But that was the only, I think, close call we had. But yes, I was very lucky that Mom was pretty much med free.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing, because, like I said, we're taking care of these people, sometimes could be a challenge. Yeah. I mean, I don't mention much of the other one, because the other one was super hyper. I mean, if you put a plate of food in front of him, it was like he was like an animal, and like literally would like just gulp it down. Like you had to try to slow him down, and he was like, and then all of a sudden I must have picked up that habit one time, and I started going off like that. But he was always eating so fast, and like when you try to do things with him, he'd try to run off on you. So, the one in the wheelchair, he was easier to work with. Nothing against the other one either. I mean, I cared for them both. I liked them both. His family got along with me very well and understood what I try to do and all that. So, all right. So, the one question I do have for you is from our podcast's #1 fan, and she's a superheroine. Her name is American Fox, and her question is, did growing up in New Jersey influence your writing?
I'm not so sure if it was just Jersey, but definitely in my family. Humor was a big deal, and in my, I was an actor and stuff, and I always tried to do funny things. I used to write funny songs and stuff as I was growing up, and then I did stand up for a bit out in Hollywood. So the book has a lot of laughs in it. I mean, it's certainly, there's a lot of tears. So I tell people, I say, you'll cry out loud and you'll laugh out loud. And then a lot of the reviews from readers, and a lot of them that I don't know, said they laughed and they cried, and they loved the nice mix of the humor. So that was, there's probably a bit of Jersey, a Jersey, I don't know, flavor to it, but definitely it has the Porro flavor from growing up with my my folks, and my siblings are all pretty funny also. So, but yes, it definitely had an influence, and I'm sure there's enough Jersey in there that people will they'll get it.
Remember now, he was North Jersey, I was Central. Okay, so yeah, speaking of the reviews in the email, now I have guests send me emails to confirm everything, and when we do these podcasts, everything goes to the email that they send me. So the 5-star Amazon review, and what's even ironic is I'm actually wearing an Amazon shirt because I work for Amazon.
Oh, cool.
Believe it or not, I work in the warehouse though, so I don't see your books coming through and all that. So just to let you know, I work in a sortation center, so it's different. But the review that he put at the bottom of his email is, this author weaves his stories together, employing a wickedly humorous skill, not unlike that of David Sedaris and Augustin Burroughs. So that tells you, folks, this book is really, really good. I'm close to getting it. I'm close to getting it. I just gotta hold myself out a little bit on it, budget wise. Not saying what the amount of the book is like really deep in the pocket. It's just right now I'm getting little things together and then going from there. So now the fun part for you. How can people get the book?
Well, if they're, it's on Amazon. That's of course the biggest market. It's in some brick and mortar stores too around I think around the world, which is very cool. So my publisher works with a distributor, independent publishing group out of Chicago, and they've got this thing everywhere. So if you Google A Cup of Tea on the Commode, you'll see the book a lot of places, but also I've got a YouTube channel also with about 150 little teasers that I've been doing over the last couple of years. I've been really promoting this thing quite a bit. I've got a blog, so if they go to a cup of tea on the commode.org, you'll see that, and there's a lot of fun parts of the blog. I have a new page that I put on there called Fun Extra. So as people read the book, there's a lot of things that are that we talk about in the book that I have either photos or go into more depth on that Fun Extras page, which is kind of fun. And I've even done TikTok videos and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram, and the Facebook page has quite I think like 25,000 followers and stuff like that. So it's you know what, it's a nice story. I wasn't sure. I took notes and a lot of photographs and videos and stuff while I was doing this because I like to record family history, and there were just some really fun conversations with my mom that I didn't want my family members to miss out on, you know, the ones that weren't there to witness this stuff. So as I was going through this, I had some friends, as being a baby boomer, we're all going to face this at one point. And I have to make a decision. But I had some friends who were kind of going through it with their folks, and I started sharing notes of what I was doing, and they seemed to get some benefit out of it. Yeah. So I said, I think I got something here. We have an audience that could learn some things. I don't call it a how-to book. I call it a what I did book. And if you get some benefit from it, great. But also like-minded people. There's some of the personal notes I've gotten from people who've read it. It's just gorgeous because they're just saying, hey, I went through this and it was lovely to hear what you did and hear a different perspective, especially for a son, because I still think it's around 60% of the caregiving falls upon the daughters or the women in our family. So men are catching up. We're doing more of it. And that's where some of my background in Hollywood and I think in design help, because you know, you're seeing your mother naked for the first time, and there was no lines that we didn't cross because I took that job on and said, listen, I got to get over the initial shock and get on with it because I've got a job to do. I'm taking this role as a caregiver, so I'm going to give it my all. So that was, I guess, a bit of a shock at first, but there was so much. I mean, my mom had again, she was very funny, and she came out with some witty lines. Like one day she asked me, she says, why are you so good to me? And I said, because you're my mother, I love you, and you deserve to be treated like a queen. And then she burped. And I said, but queens don't do that. And she says, well, how do you know? That makes sense. So,
oh, well, who knows?
Getting peed on by your mother while you're changing her diaper is not a fun thing.
Oh, God.
So one night I had her all ready for bed, and then she starts going. And I go,
oh, God.
Mom, why now? And she says, it's natural. You can't be mad. You just got to smile and say, you know, you're right. So
yeah, that comes with the caregiving. Yep. I had my shares of that too, with the working with the mentally disabled and all that.
And I missed it, but you know, not having children. So this is this is a little bit of payback.
Yeah. But you know what? Doing it, if you really think about it, doing it could be the best thing because you make a person's life better, and being there for them, even though like I wasn't there 24/7 with the gentleman I worked with, but being there, I mean, they were always happy to see me when I walked in the door. And the one in the wheelchair, if my now ex-wife, popped up to see me, I mean, he'd be like smiling ear to ear, like, yeah. And they all knew her because, like I said, her mom worked with me and in the within the agency of it. So, but when she popped up, he had that smile on his face, like, yeah, you're coming to see me, and like even though he knows or he thinks he knows that he's coming to see. I mean, she'll say hi to him and all that, but mainly she'd come over to tell me, something, or or there, or if she borrowed the car, picking me up and all that. But it was a great experience. I will say that I enjoyed doing the things with the one in the wheelchair. Trying, like you said, trying to do things with the other one was a little hard, but I made the attempt to make it happen and try to fulfill what they wanted, as well as what the family wanted. And one last question I have for you in reference to it, and the one that wasn't in the wheelchair. We lost. There we go. All right. So the one question I had: did you feel like you were hovering over her sometimes while you were taking care of her?
I would say no. You know what I did? I put a baby monitor in her room, which was a video monitor. So there were times, especially when I was renovating the house, that I wanted to make sure if she woke up and needed anything, that I would either see or hear her. So that was important. So that would be, I guess, the hovering. I wasn't I wasn't like a tiger parent, but when you're there 24/7, you're always worried. Because you don't know, if especially if you ever got a good night's sleep, that would be rare. But you're laying in bed and you're wondering, if when I get up in the morning, is she going to still be here with us?
Right.
So you always have that concern, and so that's a bit stressful and a shame. But that again, that comes with the territory. I would have to say that the greatest lesson I learned from this whole thing was, and part of that again comes from my design background and also the acting, is empathy. You really have to put yourself in their shoes, or in my mom's case, her non-slip safety socks, because she couldn't wear shoes anymore. But they're still your parent, your mother, your father. They still deserve the love and dignity and respect. And a lot of that time that gets lost nowadays. We don't seem to respect our elders like we used to, or I think like we should. And this is going to be, they say in 2050, there's going to be over 426 million people over 80 years old around the world. And in the US, there's over 50 million now that are over 80. So this could be a crisis coming, because our healthcare system can't handle that. And back, I guess not too far back was, we always had 3 generations in the house. And there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience we can learn from our parents and grandparents. And it's a shame that we don't do that anymore. I currently live in France.
Yeah.
And I would think that Europe was a little different. And I find that they're getting more and more like Americans. We farm them out to assisted living or nursing homes and stuff like that. And I think it's a shame. So we got to do better. And I'm hoping that, as I share my story, it will inspire other people to jump in and care for their loved ones and see what the benefit of that is. Because how long did they take care of us?
Yeah, right. I do apologize. The one thing about the Wi-Fi that I have here, it goes through T-Mobile. They have the 5G internet, and when it comes to live streaming, it's not the greatest. So I do apologize that you got cut out.
Okay.
So my last question for you, I thought that was the last question, but my one main question is, those that saying now that are going through this, what's the best advice that you can give them?
Well, I would say that empathy. Use empathy. You really have to first maybe ask permission, because there are some people who are not comfortable in this role, and they shouldn't force it, because the loved one will feel it, and it will cause tension and friction, I think, between let's say patient and caregiver. If you're comfortable doing this thing, jump in, learn as much as you can from the pros, and take care of your loved one. Treat them with respect. They're going to be a little slower than how you knew them. They may not remember your name. You can't take that personally. In the beginning, my mother remembered her 5 other children without a problem. But my name she couldn't remember, and I'm the one wiping her butt every day. So I do have a chapter in the book, Does Wiping Butt Cause Amnesia? And I think I proved that in the book. But you can't take it personally, because she came around eventually, and she didn't have an issue with the name after that. But if you're open and honest with them, and you go in with I guess an open heart, and find another one of my mottos is find the joy in it. And if you're looking for the joy in it, you will definitely find it.
Again.
And they will feel that joy, I think, and feel your heart. That if your heart is into this stuff, they're going to feel it, and it's going to make your job easier, and it's going to make them a lot happier. So,
okay. Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. And definitely check out A Cup of Tea on the Commode.org. Get the book. If you feel like you have a family member that may need you to take care of them, jump in, do what you need to do, and be that support for the family. Because they love you no matter what, even if they are in a capacity that you couldn't that you couldn't handle, but they're always there for you as well. And with Mark stepping up and taking care of his mom like that for 3.5 years, I mean, it was fun and easy, but it could have been challenging for him. And describing it in the book, and letting you, the reader, seeing what he went through doing this, and all the accomplishments that came out of it. So, Mark, again, thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your story with us.
Thanks, Joey. It was my pleasure.
All right, and everybody else, thank you so much for watching and listening to the Life of Joey Calvin podcast. God bless you all. Take care.